teaching the Bible. What you think about the Christmas holiday, brother? That's what we got right here. You look at this sign. You got the Christmas holiday, you know, because that's the day when everybody's celebrating the day, right? Absolutely. What you think about Christmas?
Christmas? Well, it's my belief. I believe that that's where Jesus Christ was born.
You believe Christ was born that day, December 25th?
That's it. That's what I believe that.
Yeah, can we prove that in the Bible though?
You can look at it. That's fine.
Because I don't think it's in there. I'm pretty sure we got like a lot of historians and people that have been searching for the birth of Christ, but they can't find it when he was born.
No, absolutely. You cannot find it.
Right. And even like when we look in the Bible, can you find anywhere where Christ celebrated birthdays or told people to celebrate his birthday? So why we celebrate Christmas today? Where that religion come from? I mean, where did that come from? That custom?
To be honest with you, I think it's because of the real colonized.
Right. You learned about that. Hey, I'm gonna show you something in the Bible that show you how we got colonized, right? Go to Maccabees real quick. Second Maccabees. Go to Second Maccabees 6 and 6. Then go to First Maccabees 1:41. Because like I say, you know, we like you were saying, we were colonized, but we call ourselves like Christians and we believe in the Bible. That's a custom that we shouldn't be keeping. You know, I'm gonna show you the colonization. Go ahead.
This is in the book of 2 Maccabees, chapter 6 and verse 6. Neither was it lawful for a man to keep Sabbath days.
So this is talking about when the Jews, because if you look on this sign, if you see yourself on this sign, you would be considered part of the 12 tribes. You see your nationality on there? Benjamin, West Indian, right? So you'll be from the tribe of Benjamin. So you'll be from the original tribe of the children of Israel, right? So this when the children of Israel, when they was in the Greek captivity, when it was in Grecia, right? Go ahead and read.
Neither was it lawful for a man to keep Sabbath days.
So it wasn't lawful for the Jews to even keep the Sabbath days, right? Because they was colonized, right? Read.
Or ancient feasts.
Or even your feast days, like the feast days like Christ kept. We're going to tell you the feast day that Christ kept. Go ahead.
Or to profess himself at all to be a Jew.
You couldn't even walk around and say you was a Jew. Like we walking around now, we professing that we the real Jews. Back in Grecia, you couldn't do that. You couldn't say that you was a Jew, right? Go ahead.
And in the day of the king's birth, every month they were brought by bitter constraint to eat of the sacrifices. And when the feast of Bacchus was kept, the Jews were compelled to go in procession to Bacchus carrying ivy. Moreover, they went out and decreed to the neighbor cities of the heathen by the suggestion of Ptolemy against the Jews that they should observe the same fashions.
They should do what?
Observe the same fashions.
So we had to observe the same fashions, the same customs as the other nations, as the heathen nations, right? Go ahead.
And be partakers of their sacrifices.
So we had to be partakers of their feast days, their sacrifice, like Christmas, like today. We take part in those feast days of the other nations, but that's not so, right? Go ahead.
And whoso would not conform themselves.
So whoever didn't want to conform themselves, right, to keep these customs, like for ancient feast days, right? Go ahead.
To the manners of the Gentiles.
This is a Gentile custom. Christmas is a custom of the other nations, not for the Jews, not for us. We're supposed to separate ourselves from the other people and be a holy nation. That's why God called us a special people. We got to separate out of this world and be holy, right? Go ahead.
Should be put to death.
So you didn't keep the customs, you were what?
Should be put to death.
Our people was being put to death if they didn't keep the customs or the religions of the other nations, right? On that.
Then might a man have seen the present misery.
Right. I'm going to show you one more. Go to first.
Where are you reading from? What book is it?
The Holy Bible. Yeah, there's a reading from the books that was actually removed during the 1800s. But it was originally inside the original King James Bible. You said 1 and 41?
Yeah.
This is the book of 1 Maccabees, chapter 1 and verse 41. Then Judas appointed certain men to fight against those that were in the fortress until he had cleansed the sanctuary. So he chose priests of blameless conversation, such as had pleasure in the law, who cleansed the sanctuary, and bear out the defiled stones into an unclean place. And when, as they consulted what to do with the altar of burnt offerings, which was profaned, they thought it best to pull it down, lest it should be a reproach to them, because the heathen had defiled it.
Because the what?
Because the heathen had defiled it.
It's talking about the holy temple of God. They're going into the feast of Hanukkah or the feast of dedication, right? That's our custom. That's what we should be keeping. We should be keeping that custom. Go ahead.
Wherefore they pulled it down, and laid up the stones in the mountain of the temple in a convenient place, until there should come a prophet to show what should be done with them. Then they took whole stones according to the law, and built a new altar according to the former.
Right, so they built a new altar, right, to rededicate the temple to the Most High God, right? Go ahead.
And made up the sanctuary and the things that were within the temple, and hallowed the courts.
Right. You jump down up a few verses where it talks about the feast of dedication. Maybe like
50, you said 59?
Yeah.
59. Moreover, Judas and his brethren with the whole congregation of Israel ordained that the days of the dedication of the altar should be kept in their season from year to year.
So this is what we should be keeping. The rededication of the altar from year to year, because we the 12 tribes of Israel, right? Go ahead.
By the space of 8 days.
So our feast day, our day is not a one-day celebration. Like today, when the sun go down, this day over with. It's over with. People that spent all their money, went all out their way, traveled thousands of miles, spending so much money, cooking big dinners. It's over with. Our feast day, the feast of dedication, is an 8-day celebration. We celebrate for 8 days, right? Go ahead.
From the 25th and 20th day of the month of Caslu, with myrrh and gladness.
Right, now give me John 10:22. I'm going to show you, because Christ kept this feast day. We like call ourselves Christians, and we follow and mimic what Christ do. We're going to follow what Christ did. You can't find nowhere in the Bible where Christ saying, hey, let me celebrate Christmas, let it be expected. We got to start teaching our children come out of these things too, right? Because it's pure evil, right? Watch this. Go ahead.
This is the book of John, chapter 10, verse 22. And it was at Jerusalem, the feast of dedication.
So it was the feast of what?
Dedication.
It's the feast of dedication, what we just read about in Maccabees, where they cleansed the altar, right? Go ahead.
And it was winter.
And it was winter time, right? Go ahead.
And Jesus walked.
Who was at the feast of dedication?
And Jesus walked.
Jesus was at the feast of dedication, right? Go ahead.
In the temple in Solomon's porch.
Right. So Jesus, he didn't walk into the Christmas celebration with the tree and the jingle bells hanging around. He walked into the feast of dedication. That's the reason why we out here. Because our people, we mixed up in all kind of philosophy, religion, Christmas, all that stuff is against the Bible. Anybody that keeping Christmas, they're going against God. They're going against the Bible. You can find one of those books on Amazon.
Yeah, I got it on Amazon. This one kind of has like the old English, so it's somewhat hard to read. But you can get it like $30 at Amazon. Right. Yeah, you can buy it separately as well too. It's called the Apocrypha. Right. And they have those at Barnes and Nobles and stuff like that.
Right. So you know you're an Israelite from the tribe of Benjamin now, right, brother? Yeah. So if anybody asks you, don't say I'm West Indian.
My brother told me that.
Right. Tell them you're from the tribe of Benjamin.
So you heard it before.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Right. So you know we got to keep God's commandments, right? Right. We got to keep the commandments. We got to come back and proclaim our heritage, right? And we can't be calling ourselves African American and West Indies. All right, brother.
Have a good day.
Have a good day, brother. Because that's what we out here to teach our people. We out here to teach our people that we need to come out of that folliness and foolishness. Christmas is folly and foolish. If you look around, if I can spam the camera around, I'm going to go spam the camera around. family came around and get this brother over here with that Christmas hat on. See if you can focus up. Focus a little bit up close. That's our people right there. Fouliness, foolishness. Keeping the customs of the so-called white man. This custom was never, ever given to us. Never. Never a custom of the so-called Israelites. Our people going on. But sometimes we mistakenly and don't know what's going on. That's why we out here to tell our people, hey, you need to come out of these things, man. You need to come out of these things. So what we try to do, we try to please the wife, we try to please the family. That's what we do. We try to please our families, our kids, right? Let me see if I can get this brother. He ain't gonna come on. Hey, brother, let me ask you a quick question real quick. You got a minute? You got a minute? Let me ask you a quick question. Come up. I ain't gonna hurt you, brother. I'm your brother. I love you, right? But that's why we come. We out here for a reason. Everybody think we just out here set up, but we out here because we love our people. We out here to tell our people. When you look on this side, because have you ever heard the 12 tribes of Israel in the Bible? See, that's why we out here. We out here to tell our people. If you look at this sign on this side, if you see your nationality on this side, African American, West Indian, Asian, where you see your father at on it? Nationality of your father. You're not on here? You're not African American, American black? Yeah. Yeah. So you'll be from the tribe of Judah. Our people from the tribe of Judah. When you look at Judah, that's the tribe that Christ came from, Jesus the Christ. That's where he came from. So you'll be directed from the bloodline, descended from the same where Christ come from. Right. So that's why we are here to tell our people, this our people. We the 12 tribes of Israel. You're not just a regular person, a regular man. We're kings on the earth. But this is something that was hidden from us thousands of years. The so-called white man, he had these things from us. So we won't come back and wake up in the morning and know, hey, I come from the lineage, the same lineage with Christ. Same blood that was pumping in Christ's veins is the same blood pumping in your veins today. So that's what we are here to tell our people, right? I'm going to show you how he feel about you. Give me that in Deuteronomy 7 and 6. So we are here to tell you, you're an Israelite, and you got to come back as an Israelite to get the kingdom of heaven. A lot of people get miscrewed with the kingdom of heaven. They think the kingdom of heaven is up in the sky with grandma and granddaddy. That's not the kingdom of heaven in the Bible. The kingdom of heaven in the Bible. You listen real good to the word kingdom. What is a kingdom? A king. What do a king do with a kingdom? He's the king. He's the ruler over all the subjects. That's what the kingdom of heaven is. Being the king on the earth, a ruler of all subjects. When Christ come back and set up his throne here in America, we're going to be kings ruling under Christ. If you come back out of your sleep as Judah and keep God's commandments. But you got to do research too. Watch it. I'm going to show you how God feel about the so-called black man. Go ahead.
This is the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 7 and verse 6. For thou art an holy people.
God called the so-called African American and the people on this chart a holy people. That means separate, different. Everything we do, we better. We can go shoot hoop better. We sing better. Everything a black man put his mind to, we better than everybody. The black and the Spanish, right? So God called us a special people. Go ahead.
Unto the Lord thy God. The Lord thy God hath chosen thee.
He chose us out of every race, every nation on the earth, right? Go ahead.
To be a special people.
To be what?
A special people.
Go ahead.
Unto himself.
Unto who?
Unto himself.
Unto himself, right? Go ahead.
Above all people.
What are we?
Above all people.
The so-called black and Hispanic man, we above all people. What?
That are upon the face of the earth.
We above all nations on the face of the earth. Thus saith the Lord. That's what God said. That ain't something I said, right? So if we better than everybody on the earth, when we kings on the earth, how should we conduct ourselves? We should conduct ourselves as kings, right? Right. So I'm going to show you, because I see like you out here with your family. We out here to tell our people Christmas is a wicked holiday. It seems like it's joyful. Everybody holding hands, smiling, hugging and kissing, eating the turkey and whatever they do. But according to God, this is a pagan holiday. God, he hates this day. Give me that in Amos chapter 5, I believe. God said he hates Christmas. He hates our people celebrating that. Because where we get these customs from, so-called white men, we come with these customs. We supposed to separate ourselves. If we're a holy person, we supposed to separate ourselves. It's like the president or the king or Queen Elizabeth. You can't find them just mingling amongst people because they different, they holy, they separate themselves from all the philosophies and God. They don't keep these days. Watch this. Read that.
This is the book of Amos, chapter 5 and verse 21. I despise your feast days.
What did God say?
I despise your feast days.
God said he hates and despises these feast days. He hates it. He can't stand these feast days. Go ahead.
And I will not smell in your solemn assemblies.
Right, now give me Jeremiah chapter 10. Because God, he hates these feast days. And you as a black man, as a gentleman, you got a beautiful daughter, you know, and you should be like teaching your daughter, so when she get older and grow up, she can teach her kids. If you come out of these customs, you're supposed to be saying, hey, daughter, you're a princess of the earth. You got to conduct yourself as a princess, right? That's what we are here to teach our people. Watch this. Go ahead.
This is in the book of Jeremiah, chapter 10 and verse 1. Hear ye the word which the Lord speaketh unto you, O house of Israel.
Talking to the Israelites. This is us, the so-called black and Hispanics and Native American Indians. These people on this list that you see, we are the 12 tribes of Israel, the holy people, right? Go ahead.
Thus saith the Lord, learn not the way of the heathen.
Do what?
Learn not the way of the heathen.
The Bible says don't learn the way of the other nations, the customs, Christmas, Thanksgiving. Don't learn that stuff, right? Go ahead.
And be not dismayed at the signs of heaven.
Read.
For the heathen are dismayed at them.
Who's supposed to be celebrating it?
The heathens are dismayed at them.
Other nations, they supposed to be celebrating it because they not holy. Right? Go ahead.
You got kids?
Yeah, I'm going to show you something. Let me finish this and I'm going to show you. Because I'm going to show you. Watch this.
For the customs of the people are vain. For one cutteth a tree out of the forest.
So this is a specific holiday that Christ's talking about. He said, one take a tree and cut it out of the forest. Go ahead.
The work of the hands of the workman with the axe. They deck it with silver and with gold.
What you do at the Christmas tree?
They deck it with silver and with gold.
Read.
They fasten it with nails and with hammers that it move not. They are upright as the palm tree.
Now go back to verse 2.
Verse 2, thus saith the Lord, learn not the way of the heathen.
So the Bible says don't learn this thing. Don't learn this stuff. Give me Jeremiah 2:33. Yeah, I got kids, brother. I got kids. Come here, brother. Give me Deuteronomy 6 and 7. We got kids. All of us got kids. But we teach our kids that they the Israelites and we got to keep God's commandments because the Bible got all kind of holidays and feast days that we can keep inside of the Bible. If you read Leviticus chapter 23, it's a list of holidays in there that we should be keeping. Christ kept the holidays that's in the Bible. You ever heard of Hanukkah, right? Christ kept Hanukkah. He didn't say, let me keep Christmas. He kept Hanukkah. So Christ kept Hanukkah, and he's a descended bloodline from where you come from. You should be keeping the same custom as Christ and teaching your daughter as well.
I respect all of what y'all doing.
Right.
I'm not discrediting anything y'all saying. I did my research.
Right.
All of it. I did my research on my school, what to believe and what not to believe. Right. Younger, of course, you're gonna go by what your parents teach you, shit like that.
Right.
As you get older, yes, I did my research. I know certain things like what you're talking about right now.
Right.
I'm not discrediting anything what y'all saying.
Right. That's why we out here because we try to teach our people that because we're supposed to be seeking for the kingdom. You don't want one day that come around a year stop you from getting the kingdom of heaven. One day that you want to say, oh, I just want to keep the kids and my wife happy and my family happy. Let me show you what God says. Read that, Jeremiah 2:33.
This is in the book of Jeremiah, chapter 2, verse 33.
Read.
Why trimmest thou thy way to seek love?
God said, why you going to trim your way to seek love from your family? Why trim your way to seek love? Right? Don't do that. Go ahead.
Therefore hast thou also taught the wicked ones thy ways.
Right, because Christmas is wicked. Right? Christmas is wicked. You don't supposed to be teaching your kid that was wicked stuff. He said, why trim your ways to seek love from your family? We love our, if you truly love your family, if we really love our kids and our wife, we tell our kids and wife, we're not celebrating Christmas no more. We're not keeping that custom because that's the custom of the devil, 666. When you do that, you condemning your family, you condemning your wife, you condemning your kids. But society gonna tell you, oh, ain't nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with it. That's what they gonna tell you. But God, we just read 2 or 3 scriptures where God say, don't do it. So if the creator that created the heavens and the earth tell you don't do something, you gonna continue doing it, or you gonna say, you know what, we gotta cease with that. You know, and we gotta be men in the house. Because we know we in almost 2022, and the men today, they weak to their women. Whatever the women tell them to do, they fall, oh baby, okay, I'll do it. But we got to step, that's what happened to the black men in the 2000s, the 90s, and the 80s. They fell weak to women, right? The men in the 60s and the 70s, our grandfathers, they was never weak to their wife. Whatever they said in the house, it was my way, well, that was it. Because in the Bible teaches that the man is 100% in charge of the house. It ain't 50-50 like people in society say. It's 100% is the man. And the man have authority to teach his wife and his kids, you know. I'm going to show you what we got to teach our kids. I'm going to read one more scripture.
I got to go.
All right, brother, go ahead. We're going to keep on reading. Read that.
This is Deuteronomy chapter 6 and verse 7.
Read, brother.
And thou shalt teach them diligently.
And thou shalt teach them diligently, who? Your sons, your daughter, your wife. You got to teach your family, right? Go ahead.
Unto thy children.
You got to teach it unto your children. What do you teach your children? You're supposed to be teaching your children the customs of Christmas, right? That's going on. When you're teaching your family Christmas, you going on. You know, if you are the true man of the Lord, if you really love the Lord, you'll take that hat off and throw it in the river and say, I'm not celebrating that. Come over here, sister. See your daughter trying to get you to tell you something. Come here, sister. Let me ask you something. Come here, let me ask you a question. I ain't gonna bite you. I'm your brother. I'm your brother. Look at this sign right here real quick. Tell me what's your nationality on this sign. Where you see yourself? Puerto Rican? All right, so you'll be from the tribe of people. Do you know what that is? When we out here teaching the so-called black and Hispanic people, they come from the 12 tribes of Israel. You ever heard of the 12 tribes of Israel? That means the chosen people of God. Yeah. So you will become from the chosen people of God. You'll come from the tribe of heathen. That's the so-called Puerto Ricans come from that lineage. Yeah. You know, that's the same lineage of, you know, Joseph inside the Bible. That would be your forefather right there. You come from the same lineage as Joseph, Puerto Rican. That's what we out here to teach our people. We're here to teach people that you ain't black, you ain't Spanish, not a stick or nothing like that. You're a chosen people. So if God chose you to be a special people, and then you got to come back and keep the commandments of God. You ever read the Bible? Or you go to church? You don't go to church, do you?
I used to.
Well, we ain't really talking about church because we don't go to church either. Yeah. Because nowhere in the Bible will tell you be a Christian, go to church. Yeah. The Bible tell you, it's a history book. It's really what it is. It's all about the so-called black and Puerto Rican people history. How did the people in Puerto Rico get to Puerto Rico? The Bible tell you how they got there. I'm going to show it to you. Give me that in second. I'm going to show you how the people got to Puerto Rico. But this is a history book. This is all our history that's telling us everything about our lineage, right? And then you can learn. And then once you start learning, you can teach your daughter. Right? Read that, 2nd Esdras 13.
This is in the book of 2nd Esdras, chapter 13, verse 40.
I'm going to show you how they got to Puerto Rico. Read.
Those are the 10 tribes which were carried away prisoners.
All these Hispanic tribes, these were the 10 tribes from Puerto Rican all the way down to Mexico. Right? These were the 10 tribes of Israel. They was carried away captive, right? In Assyrian captivity, right? Go ahead.
Out of their own land.
They got took out of their own land, read.
In the time of Hosea the king, whom Salmanasar, the king of Assyria, led away captive.
Right, because the king of Assyria, he put all these people in slavery. Go ahead.
And he carried them over the waters.
He did what?
And he carried them over the waters.
You hear that, sister? He carried these people that got in the boat and got carried over waters. Go ahead.
And so came they into another land.
They came for another land like Puerto Rico, right? Go ahead.
But they took this counsel among themselves that they would leave the multitude of the heathen and go forth into a further country.
They going where?
Into a further country.
Puerto Ricans went to a different country before they went to Puerto Rico, right? Go ahead.
Where never mankind dwelt.
Because didn't nobody live on that island, right? Go ahead.
That they might keep their statutes.
They might do what?
Keep their statutes.
They're going to keep their customs. Not Christmas, because Christmas is not a custom that we kept. Right? Go ahead.
Which they never kept in their own land.
See that? They never kept them customs like Christmas in their own land. Right? Go ahead.
And they entered into Euphrates by the narrow passages of the river.
Right.
For the Most High then showed signs for them and held still the flood.
So when they was in the boat, God stopped the flood so they could travel through there, right? How long did it take?
Till they were passed over, for through that country there was a great way to go.
It was a long way to travel. Go ahead.
Namely of a year and a half.
It took a year and a half to get to Puerto Rico, right? Go ahead.
And the same region is called Arsaris.
The same region was called Arsaris. That's what the Bible called those lands, Arsaris. So that's how the people of Puerto Rico got over there. Like I say, this is your history book. This is not a religious book. Because people try to take this book and try to make it out of a goody two-shoe book. This is a book about Black and Hispanic history. You ain't never thought about the Bible being that way, have you? They always show you this image right here, the white Jesus. They tell you got to worship this guy, pray to him. And that's false according to the Bible. Did you know Jesus Christ was a black man? Did you know that, sister? Yeah, Jesus Christ, when you read Revelation, it said he had woolly hair and his skin was like burnt brass. Like burnt brass would make him a black man. So these are things that you should be learning, sister, because this is not a religious book. And it's kind of funny because the Lord put the spirit on your daughter to say, hey, go over there. Because you ain't just come here by accident or coincidence. The Lord lured you this way. Why he lure you towards us? Because he know that you need to be learning it. He know you need to come back to him as a tribe of Ephraim and keep the commandments of God. So I know you ain't gonna listen too long, but if you go on the internet, get his sister a flyer, go on the internet, do some research, and look where the so-called Puerto Ricans come from, the tribe of Ephraim. There's all kind of history that tell you that Puerto Rican people, they come from the 12 tribes of Israel. We God's chosen people. That means God loved these people more than any other nationality of the earth. He loved you more than the white man, the Chinese man, the East Indian man, because these are his kids. That's your daughter, right? You love her more than any other kids out here, right? That's how God looking at us. He loved us more than any other kids on the planet. Watch it. Get them in there in Amos chapter 3. I'm going to show you that God loved the so-called Israelites more than every family on the earth. Watch this. Amos chapter 3 and verse 1. I'm going to show you this. Watch this. This is the book of... Got him up?
I got it.
Go ahead. You got it?
This is the book of Amos, chapter 3 and verse 1. Hear this word that the Lord hath spoken against you, O children of Israel.
So God said he's speaking to you, the children of Israel. These people on here, right? Go ahead.
Against the whole family.
Against who?
The whole family.
Against the whole family, what?
Which I brought up from the land of Egypt, saying, you only have I known.
You hear what God says, sister? He says, you only have I known. These people right here, go ahead.
Of all the families of the earth.
Of what?
Of all the families of the earth.
He know us. He only know this because we his children out of all the families of the earth. Go ahead.
Therefore, I will punish you for all your iniquities.
Right. So the Lord said he will punish us. It's like if your daughter do something bad, you will punish her. You can't punish nobody else's kids, right? You can only punish your children. So that's why God, he's doing all these bad and atrocities towards these people right here because we're breaking the commandments of God. But in the last days, we will have to come back as the children of Israel. We can't come back and say, I'm African American, I'm Puerto Rican, I'm Mexican, I'm Dominican. You have to come back to these names over here and start keeping the commandments. Keeping the commandments of God. But you need to learn more. That's why we got a little, we go to the life area right up here. We go every Saturday, teach every Saturday about 1 o'clock. tell our people they got to come back to the Lord and keep the commandments. You know, commandments of the Lord. Like, you know, women don't supposed to be wearing pants, right? Did you know that was a commandment? Women were actually supposed to be dressing up and dressing. But it was never commanded for a woman. If you look back in the early 1960s, women never wore pants. They never wore pants until the early 1970s. That's when they started wearing pants. But do your research, sister. All right. We're going to continue with the word. Continue with the word. Let's continue with the word. Let's get that. Let's get a couple commandments. Let's get that in Deuteronomy. Deuteronomy chapter 22. Deuteronomy 22 and 5. Let's get a couple commandments to show. If you watching this video, that the so-called women is not allowed to be wearing pants. Somebody read that. I got it. Go ahead.
This is the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 22 and verse 5.
Read.
The woman,
The who?
the woman,
The who?
the woman
The women, right? Go ahead.
shall not wear that which pertaineth unto a man.
Did you know that, brother? Did you know women don't supposed to be wearing men clothing? Like pants, leggings, spandex. Women don't supposed to be wearing that. Well, you love it, but God hates it. You can't do what you love, because when you do what you love, you know what happens? You're going to be destroyed by God. That's the problem with our people. I love it. The hell with what you love. We love the Lord. We're going to do what this Bible tell us to do. We ain't going to do what we want to do. Right? Read.
Neither shall a man put on a woman's garment.
And if her husband was walking around with a damn dress on, she wouldn't even be out here with him. She'd be like, I'm not walking with you. You walking with a dress on. You going off. But it's role reverse. She going the hell off. When the heaven's looking down at her, she going off. She going off. Right? Right? He going.
For all that do so
All the women that want to wear spandex, pants, blue jeans, go ahead.
are abomination.
It's a what?
Are abomination.
It's what?
Are abomination.
That's an abomination to the Lord. Women don't supposed to be wearing pants. Women supposed to be wearing dresses. Give me that modest apparel. 1 Timothy 2 and 9. Women supposed to be dressed up in modest apparel clothes. When you walk around with them tight jeans on, we can see your whole body shape. And what that do? That get the men into lust, men into sin. That's what that does. Yet when men into lust and to sin, that keep wickedness going on the earth. So women got to learn how to dress. Even you older women. You older women ought to know better, because y'all never grew up. Your mama never put you in no dang on pants. That's something the American society you was taught here in America, right? Santa Claus man, come here. Let me ask you a question. Come here. Come here real quick. Let me ask you a question. I see you got that shirt that say, what it say, ho, ho, ho. It should say 666. You know that, right? Because Christmas, look, is of the devil. Did you know that?
No.
Christmas is of the devil. Right? That's a pagan holiday. When you keep it Christmas, you worship Satan. Did you know that? Right, you worship Satan, but the so-called white man is Satan anyway. So he can worship Christmas. But that's not so for you so-called black and Hispanics. He can worship Christmas, but not you. Not you so-called black people. Not you so-called Hispanic people. Let the European man, let him play his role as Satan of the earth. Right? That's not our custom. That's not the custom of our people. Right? Where we left off at?
I got 1 Timothy.
Read that.
This is 1 Timothy chapter 2 and verse 9.
All right.
In like manner also, that women adorn themselves in modest apparel.
Women got to do what?
Adorn themselves in modest apparel.
How do women got to dress?
Adorn themselves in modest apparel.
Did y'all know y'all going into slavery? Did you know that you going into slavery? Hand the camera on that guy. Hey, yeah, we're going to put you in some damn chains, and we're going to put you in slavery. For what your forefathers did to our forefathers, right? So-called Muslims, y'all going into slavery. And you so-called Moabites, you Chinese people, y'all Asian people, y'all going into slavery according to the Bible. Pan the camera on him. Did you know that? Did you know the so-called Asian people or Chinese people going into slavery? according to the Bible, it is what it is. You got that right. It is what it is. Y'all going into slavery for what y'all done to our forefathers, right? Let's get that. Let's get that in Revelation chapter 13 and verse 9. You so-called other nations, y'all going into slavery. And y'all deceiving the people. Y'all deceiving the so-called black man, the so-called Hispanic man, what, keep these false customs. Keep these false customs. Because when you put yourself up as God, they portray you as the Lord. And they want to follow the Lord. So they follow the customs of the so-called white man. Right? Read that in Revelation real quick.
Got it?
Yeah, I got it.
I mean, I got either way.
Read. Read yours in that Isaiah 14.
Oh, Isaiah 14.
Go ahead, read.
This is the book of Revelation, chapter 13 and verse 9.
Read.
If any man have an ear, let him hear.
Anybody got ears to hear? Moabite, right? Read.
He that leadeth into
He
captivity,
that do what?
he that leadeth into captivity,
So-called Moabites, the Edomites, the Ishmaelites, they led us into captivity, right? Read.
shall go into
What's
captivity,
going to happen to these other nations?
shall go into captivity.
These other nations going into chains, hardcore slavery, bondage. We're not going to be nice either. We're not going to rub you on your back, pat you on your back, say, oh, well, we got to do this because the Bible says so. No, we're going to grab you up, snatch you up, drag your ass down the damn street, and you're going to be our slave, right? Look at this sign right here. You see the so-called Israelite man? He got the so-called Edomite man in chains. That's where y'all going into, chains. So enjoy your feast day all you can, right? Give me that in Isaiah.
This is Isaiah chapter 14 and verse 1.
Bring it out. Brother.
The Lord will once again be merciful to his people Israel.
He's going to be merciful to the Israelites, right?
And choose them as his own.
Come here, brother. Let me ask you a question. You believe in the Bible, right? You believe in the Bible?
Yes, sir.
Do you see yourself on this sign right here? Look on this sign and look at all the nationalities on this side. Show me where you is on that sign, if you want it.
These saith, these go over here.
Which one?
Puerto Rico.
Puerto Rico. All praises. See that? You're so-called Ephraim, according to the Bible. Did you know that?
No.
Today you didn't know that. Today is your lucky day because you're going to learn that you are the greatest man on the earth. Did you know that? The Puerto Ricans are the greatest people on the earth. But they got to start acting like it, right? You can't be calling yourself Puerto Rican. You got to say, anybody ask you, erase this name and say, I'm from the tribe of Ephraim. I'm not so-called Puerto Rican. Because these names right here is the name that your so-called slave master put on you. He called you Puerto Rican. When you look up that word Puerto Rican, it's called rich port. So you're calling yourself a rich port, or the porches of rich. Because when the so-called Edomite white man went to the shores, Christopher Columbus went to Puerto Rico, that's what he called that island. You know why he called it a rich port? Because he was stealing all the gold, stealing everything. That was a rich country before they went over there and took it over and messed it up. Now it's all poor and impoverished. Because the so-called, this dude right here, he went over there and stole everything. And raped, robbed, and murdered the people. Right? But you are the so-called Puerto Rican, the so-called Ephraim. That's your new name. So if anybody asks you next time you walk by, somebody asks you, where you from? Say Ephraim. I'm from the tribe of Ephraim. I'm God's chosen people. We're going to show you that in the Bible. Let's show him that. Let's show him that he's God's chosen people. We're going to show you, how do we know? Because I know you're probably scratching your mouth. Scratching your head. How do they know that so-called Puerto Ricans are the children of God? Right? Read that.
This is the book of Deuteronomy chapter 7 and verse 6.
Read.
For thou art an holy people.
God said, thou art a holy people. These people right here, a holy people. That means separate, right? Read.
Unto the Lord thy God. The Lord thy God has chosen thee.
He what?
Chosen thee.
Chose you and your people, right? Go ahead.
To be a special people.
To be a what?
To be a special people.
Special people. You're just not an average mojo walking around. You're special. You're a king of the earth. Give me that. We are God. Read.
Unto himself.
Above. What?
Above.
What are we?
Above.
We above the so-called other nations. That's what the Bible says. Go ahead.
All people that are upon the face of the earth.
Did you know that? We above all people on the face of the earth. That's what God says. So-called black, Hispanic, or Native American Indian, we above all people upon the earth. Because in the last day, when Christ comes back, he's going to set up his kingdom here on this earth. And the so-called black, Puerto Ricans, Mexicans, they're going to be the leading world government on the earth. We're going to be running the earth in the kingdom of heaven. That's what the kingdom of heaven is called, rulership on the earth. Right? So if you want to be a king of the earth, and you want to have the dominion, be all over all dominion, you have to come back as an Israelite, teach God's commandments. So that's what the Bible teaches. The Bible teaches we the Israelites. So when you walk around, you should walk around with a chip on your shoulder. Read that. I'm going to show you something.
This is the book of Psalms, chapter 82 and verse 6.
Read.
I have said, ye are gods.
What did he say?
Ye are gods.
We gods of the earth. We walking, living gods. Right? Read.
And all of you are children of the Most High.
We what?
All of you are children of the Most High.
All of these people are the children of God. Not everybody. Not the so-called Chinese man. You're not a child of God. Right? Go ahead.
But ye shall die like men.
But we die like men. Why? Give me Deuteronomy 28:50. I'm going to show you why we die. When we first put on this earth, if you look at the prophets of the Bible, they were living like 900, 800, 700 years. We was meant to live forever. I'm going to show you when we started going off, God said we're going to die like men. Read that.
This is the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28, verse 15.
Read.
But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God,
If we don't listen to God, right?
to observe to do all his commandments,
We don't keep God's commandments, right? Go ahead.
and his statutes, which I command thee this day,
Uh-huh.
that all these curses,
All the what?
all
these curses,
All the what?
all these curses,
All these curses. Go ahead.
shall come upon thee and overtake thee.
All these curses came up on these people. That's why when you walk around, you wonder why you have a hard time, headaches. You wonder when you're going to pay your next rent, right? Because you keep breaking the commandments of the Lord. Once you stop breaking the commandments of the Lord and come back as an Israelite, and we come back as a nation that's keeping these laws, statutes, and commandments, God's going to take these curses off them, lift them up off them. Right? Give me Deuteronomy chapter 30. I'm going to show you he's going to uplift these curses off the so-called black man and Hispanic man and put them on the so-called other nations. Right? Read that. Deuteronomy 30 and verse 1.
This is the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 30 and verse 1.
Read.
And it shall come to pass, when all these things are come upon thee,
All these things that come upon thee, read.
the blessing,
The what?
the blessing,
The what?
the
You
blessing,
can either be blessed, read,
and the curse,
and the what?
and the
Or
curse,
you can have curses on you. It's up to you to choose. You can have blessings or curses, read.
which I have set before thee, and thou shalt call them to mind.
You're going to call, what do you mean by call them to mind? You're going to know who you are. You're going to know your nationality. You're going to call your nationality as an Ephraimite to mind. Not a so-called Puerto Rican, right? Go ahead.
Among all the nations.
What?
Among all the nations.
We tell all these nations that's walking around here, we are the Israelites. We the real Jews. We professing this among all the nations, right? Read.
Whither the Lord thy God hath driven thee, and shall return unto the Lord thy God.
And do what?
Return unto the Lord thy God.
What this brother got to do?
Return unto the Lord thy
You
God.
got to return us into the Lord thy God. Read.
And shall obey his voice.
Do what?
Obey his
You
voice.
got to obey God's voice. Read.
According to all that I command thee this day.
Right, because the voice of the Lord is this Bible. You got to command it to do everything that this Bible commands you to do. Read.
Thou and thy children.
Who?
Thou and thy children.
You and your family. If you married and have children. Read.
With all thine heart and with all thy soul.
You got to do it with all your mind. You got to go to the deep end for the Lord. Read.
That then the Lord thy God will turn thy captivity.
Then the Lord thy God will do what?
Then the Lord thy God will turn thy captivity.
And do what? Read.
And have compassion upon
Then
thee.
he's going to have compassion upon you. He's going to take these curses off you and have compassion upon you. Read.
And will return and gather thee from all the nations whither the Lord thy God hath scattered
Right.
thee.
He's going to grab these nations from all four corners of the earth and bring them back to Jerusalem. Right? Go ahead.
if any of thine be driven out unto the outmost parts of heaven, from thence will the Lord thy God gather thee, and from thence will he fetch thee. And the Lord thy God will bring thee into the land which thy fathers possessed.
Right, he's going to bring us back to the land of Israel, right? Go ahead.
And thou shalt possess it.
We're going to do what?
And thou shalt possess
We're going
it.
to possess that land like we did when we took that land from the Canaanites, right? Go ahead.
And he will do thee good.
We're going to do what?
And he will do thee good.
Read on.
And multiply thee above thy fathers.
We're going to multiply us above our father. That means we're going to have more riches than our forefathers. We're going to have more plenty wives, everything than our forefathers. Read.
And the Lord thy God will circumcise thine heart and the heart of thy seed,
and your children. Read.
to love the Lord thy God with all thine heart and with all thy soul, that thou mayest live.
Right.
And the Lord thy God will put all these curses.
We're going to take all these curses that we read from breaking the commandments. We're going to take them off the so-called Israelites and do what?
Upon thine enemies.
We're going to put them where?
Upon thine enemies.
So-called Edomites.
Upon thine enemies.
So-called Moabites.
Upon thine enemies.
So-called Ishmaelites.
Upon thine enemies.
They're going to have the curses on it. They're going to uplift us. We ain't going to have to search where our next meal coming from. We ain't going to be able to pay our rent. Because then all the curses going to be lifted up off us. Because we obeying the voice of the Lord. So in the last days, you got to come back, brother. Come back as an Israelite. Keep the commandments. You got to learn the commandments. How you learn the commandments? You get yourself amongst good brothers like us. You come around brothers. Every Saturday, you call it the Sabbath day. You come and study amongst brothers. And we hold each other accountable. If this brother going off and he's doing something, I correct him. If I'm doing something and I'm going off, he correct me. You got to keep the commandments of the Lord as Israelites. Because when you could keep the commandments of the Lord, give me that in Deuteronomy 4. Let me show you something. When you commit keep the commandments of the Lord, how the other nations, how they view us and how they look at us. I think it's 4 and 6. Yeah, read that.
This is the book of Deuteronomy chapter 4 verse 6.
Read.
Keep therefore and do them.
Keep therefore and do them. We're talking about the commandments. Read.
For this is your wisdom.
It's your wisdom. When you keep God's commandments, you can gain much wisdom, right? Read.
And your understanding in the sight of the nation.
And what?
In the sight of the nation.
When you keeping God's commandments, you looking like a king in the sight of all the nations, right? They look at you like this guy royalty. Get out of his way when he's walking down the street because he's a royalty man, right? Go ahead.
Which shall hear all these statutes and say, surely.
This is what the other nations say. They gonna say what?
Surely. This great nation is a wise and understanding people.
You hear that? That's what the other nations gonna say to you when you're keeping God's commandments. But if you ain't keeping God's commandments, they just kind of laugh at you. This dude, the Israelite, and don't even know it. Because you know these other nations, they know you're an Israelite, but they ain't gonna come up and tell you. You're not gonna go to the Christian church and they're gonna say, hey, you're an Israelite, keep the commandments. They're not gonna tell you that. They're gonna rub your belly, rub your back, give you a massage, and keep you in your seat. That's what the Christian church is. That's what it's set up to do. It's set up to keep the so-called black and Hispanic man down on the bottom of society. Go ahead and read.
So this is how they look at us now. This is Psalms 44 and 14. You made us a joke among the nations.
Right. Another nation say make you looking like a joke amongst the other nations, right? Go ahead.
They shake their heads at us in scorn.
They shaking your head. They like, he don't even know he is Israelite. Go ahead.
Oh, that's it on that.
That's it.
Yeah,
See that? That's what the other nations, how they feel about it. Because what our people like to do, you see all these people that's walking around, riding their scooters and skates, and they don't even know they're Israelites. They lost. That's why we out here. We out here to bring the 12 tribes of Israel back to the Lord, the elect of Israel. You might be in that number. You know, I might not be in that number, but you might be in that number. But my job is to come out here and make sure that the elect of Israel is filled. That's why we out here. So you know you're an Israelite and you know you got to keep God's commandments. All right, brother. Remember that. Do your research. Oh, you got a flyer? Take this flyer. Look it up. Look it up. All right, brother. Even when you look on that, right. When you look on this side, when you look right here, these are the Hebrew stones that they fought in Puerto Rico. Wow. Right there. Right. So we the real Hebrews, we the real Israelites. When you look it up. That's why we out here. That's why we come out here to wake our people up. People think we out here to fuss and fight, argue with people. Sometimes we gotta get on our people. Because sometimes our people, they wicked, they evil. All right. All right, brother. All right, brother. Yep. You can go ahead and stop. You're not a Mexican. You're not a Dominican. You're not a Haitian. You're not a Cuban. You're not a Colombian. Right? You are the children of Israel. You are the chosen people of God. You the Israelites. Right? And it's high time. Give me that in Romans chapter 13 and verse 11. It's high time for our people to wake up out their sleep.
Y'all boys look like a gang. No sir, I'm tribal. I just do what I'm commanded straight from the Bible. And what's this commandment you talking about? Wake up my people. Wake up my people.